Okay, now lepas tu let's look into, all right, Article 3. Follow me. All right, first, all right, Article 3 talks about international agreement not within the scope of a present convention. What does it say? All right, the fact that the present convention does not apply to international agreement concluded between states and subject of international law, or between such other subject of international law, or to international agreement not in writing, shall not affect. All right. Okay. So what does it say? It says that if you're not having it in written form, then, all right, it does not allow a legal force of such agreement, application of them, or any of the rules set forth to which they would be subjected under international law, independent of the convention. Right? You can't rely on Vienna if it's not in writing. All right. The application of convention to the relation as between themselves under international agreement to which other subject of international law are also parties. Right? Okay, so shall not affect members of the convention. It affects only because you are not doing it in written form. Itu dia, okay, it must be, all right, in written form. That's how powerful written form is. If not, they don't take it into consideration. Therefore, if you have a dispute, can you solve the dispute? Yes, you can solve the dispute. You can solve the dispute, but not referring to Vienna Convention condition. All right, you cannot refer to the convention. So what would you refer to? You will refer to previous cases. So you can carilah previous cases too. All right, okay. Jadi to make it easier, we have it in writing. Once we have it in writing, all the first one is, all right, all this legal force of the agreement will be binding according to the nature of Vienna Convention rules. All right. Okay, that's part. Yeah. Okay, the next one is, right, the next part, non-retrospective retroactivity of the present convention. Tak ada patah balik. The day you signed it, that's it. All right, whatever happened before, it's not the date. All right, 1969. If the convention, if not the convention that you signed. Let's look at the wording. Without prejudice to the application, all right, to which the treaty should be subject under international law, the convention only applies only to treaty which are concluded by state after the entry into force. So if you have a problem with Luzern Convention, that is signed in 1890s and repeat again in 1909 and repeat again in 1950s. All right, okay, for example, so will it be binding to Vienna Convention? Only? No. The answer is no, because Luzern Convention is done before 1969. Kalau Luzern Convention is re-signed again in 1970s or 69, then the treaty will be binding. All right, the Vienna Convention will be imposing rules. It's fair, isn't it? All right, then it doesn't apply to any treaty before 69. All right, let's look into number 5. Treaty constituting international organization and treaty adopted within the international organization. The treaty applies to any treaty which is the constituent instrument of an international organization and to any treaty adopted with it. So dia apply kepada dua-dua. Private pun apply, all right, okay, the rules, yeah, as long as it is in writing. Let's look into the part 3. Part 3 talks about conclusion and entry into force of the treaty. Selalu kita tengok part 2 ni kemudian. Alright, so we save part 2, okay, pasal dia talk about conclusion. Alright, tapi mana Pak Pasun Salvada? Okay, reservation, that's next week. Okay. Look at section 3, page number 10. If you have the same type of saya punya yang original one. Kalau dia ada macam-macam jenis, as long as it is the same, 1969. Entry into force and provisional application of treaty, section 3, article 24, entry into force. Article 24. Alright. Okay, kejap ya. Alright, authenticity. Alright. Okay, dekat bawah tu, you will see part 3 dulu. Kita nak tengok part 3, go to article 26 dulu. Alright, okay, this part, the observance, application and interpretation of treaty. Alright, why it is arranged in such a way is because in the treaty, it is a codification, so most party would prefer to know, alright, the effect of the treaty. Sebab tu, they put the conclusion first, right? But when we are learning on the formation, you look into part 3, alright, of section 3 first. Alright, observant, the title is Observant, Application and Interpretation of Treaty. Section 1. Nampak tu dia masih pakai section. Tapi when you write is part of your answers, you go straight to the number article. Right? You boleh tulis dia macam ni. Article 26, section 1 of part 3. Like that. Okay? Right. Kalau tak, just tulis article 26 because in Vienna Convention, the number tu follows. Dia tak berhenti dan start 1 balik semula. Yeah? Alright, I'm looking at page 11. Alright. Now, yang penting kat sini is this. After article 26, use this article 26 Vienna Convention, alright, all the time when you talk about treaty. How must a treaty be discharged between one party to another? Jawapan dia, following the principles of treaty. Where do we get the principles of treaty? We get it in the preambles and also a repeat for understanding in article 26. Tadi preambles kita dah baca perkataan Pacta sunt servanda. Now we're looking into article 26 that describe what Pacta sunt servanda means, the principles mean. The principles were said that every treaty in force is binding upon the party to it and must be performed by them in good faith. As a law student, by now you are a master in the explanation of the word good faith. Good faith, bukan good action, right? Remember tu. Okay, jadi what is Pacta sunt servanda? Doesn't matter how Wikipedia would want to translate the word Pacta sunt servanda. You bound by what you sign. Tapi the treaty under article 26 says, all right, Pacta sunt servanda means the treaty enforced is binding upon the party to it and must be performed by them in good faith. Nampak tu beza dia? Wikipedia gives you the translation of the words. Over here is, all right, the conditions in the Vienna Convention. In Vienna Convention, you are bound by the treaty you signed. Tapi how you were bound? You were bound in good faith. What is good faith? It's not good act. Good faith is, all right, your intention to do it, right, must be shown in your action. All right, misalnya, katalah the treaty requires on treaty extraterritorial treaty. Katalah kita sign extraterritorial treaty. All right, maybe you have met this word in criminal law. All right, if a criminal person, all right, from Indonesia, for example, take shelter in Malaysia, all right, bersembunyi in Malaysia, hiding in Malaysia, all right, okay, and the Malaysia and Indonesia, for example, sign a treaty on extraterritorial. In the treaty, they have this condition, obligation that if requested, all right, by the requesting states, all right, the culprit, the criminal person must be surrendered. All right, okay. must be surrendered back to the country requesting that. Misalnya under the extraterritorial treaty. Right. So if Indonesia requests Malaysia to hand over that person back to Indonesia, what must you do? You must show good faith. You must send that person back to Indonesia, even though sometimes that person is actually a prime minister ke, married to the sultan ke, all right, a privileged person, doesn't matter, right? So now that your action, all right, okay, your intention must be reflected in your action. Sometimes some countries says we can't find this fella, right? Malaysia requesting for Jolo to be returned back. China says we can't find that fella. But that one is because between Malaysia and China, there is no extraterritorial treaty. Look back into an ancient case in Malaysia, right? There is a signing the treaty of extraterritory between Malaysia and UK. All right. Okay. This fella who is a criminal, decided by law that he is a criminal, but he managed to run, escape, and take shelter or precaution or hiding in Hong Kong. Right, Hong Kong at the time when Hong Kong was part of the territory of England, right, long ago. All right, there is a treaty renting a lease of Hong Kong, a UK lease from, okay, China. At that particular time, this fella who is a culprit, who is involved in some criminal matter and corruption, criminal breach of trust and corruption, hide himself in Hong Kong. So Malaysia requested, all right, that UK send this fella. So UK police went and hunt for him and sent him. All right. Okay, can you see the two? So that is what it means by Pakta Sun Sarvanda. In the case of, nanti you will look into the case of Liechtenstein versus Guatemala, and Nottenboom's case, Nottenbhom, Nottenboom's, nama orang. Mr. Nottenboom, he was born in Liechtenstein in German, all right, but he lives in Guatemala. In Guatemala, he is actually a person of respect. He is a philanthropist, he is a churchgoer, and he is being loved by the people in Guatemala. But when a war broke, Germans were declared as enemy to the world. There was a treaty saying that any German, any states can confiscate the person who is, all right, having connection with Germans, right? That allows Guatemala to arrest Mr. Nottenboom and then confiscate all his rich assets, right? Okay, can you see that? That is Pakta Sun Sarvanda. All right, if there is such treaty, then the treaty can be carried out, right? The carrying out of the treaty must be done in good faith, all right? Okay, so a good faith is not something that you can say, oh, in good faith, we go and look for this fella that you want under the Treaty of Extraterritory. But in actual fact, you didn't do anything. That is not Pakta Sun Sarvanda. Okay, this is a principle, bukan, all right, condition that you must appear. Whether you say so in your draft or not, Pakta Sun Sarvanda is binding on all the country that have treaty. All right, okay. Internal law and observation of treaty, a party may not invoke internal law. So tak boleh pakai on treaty, all right, okay. Now, unless the treaty is a domestic treaty. Application of the treaty. No retrospective treaty. You tak boleh backdate dia. Territorial scope of the treaty. Unless a different intention appear, All right, a treaty is binding in respect of its entire territory. All right, okay. Malaysia territory apa? All the island, all the islet, all right, all the ministry, all the department, all the company. So each one of these subject of the territory of the state must respect, all right, the treaty. What could be the treaty? Any treaty that the state signs. All right, there is no limitation. Let's look into observer. Yeah, observer ni it's important. All right, that you understand the observation of treaty, because not observing treaty will lead to a dispute. The other states can sue you for not behaving fakta sud sarbanda of your states. Right, application of successive treaty relating to the same subject matter. If there are, I'm putting it in short, if there are a successive treaty and that treaty is considered as supplementary, then it is binding. Right? Okay, sometimes even though it is supplementary, it requires another signature, another ratification, then you must follow the procedure. But you can have one treaty on one subject in many treaties, and each one of treaties is independent. Contohnya environmental law, environmental treaty on climate change, environmental treaty on global warming, environmental treaty on global environment, environmental treaty on biodiversity, environmental treaty on marine environmental. You see, all are different but the same subject, environment. All right, okay, boleh, you can have that. But sometimes you can also have a treaty like climate change. In the climate change, it has already all the subject matter in itself. It has a lot of parts or a lot of provision, a lot of agreement, a lot of appendix. All right, I'll give you, all these can be read as one, or all these can be read as many. All right, contohnya Antarctica Treaty 1950, 1959. All right, the treaty body, the original body, only have 14 sahaja section. 14 saja articles. Alright, but the addition ada, alright, Madrid Protocol 1991. Ni addition selalu call protocol. In that protocol, alright, ada pula appendix. There are 5 appendix inside the protocol. All these are considered as one Antarctica Treaty. So you see, Antarctica saja banyak treaty that you must abide. Dalam protokol ni, okay, dalam ada protocol, ada appendix, and also ada special privilege agreement with America. Clause 1982, for example, the main text ada 320 section, but because of a certain condition, there is a special agreement. There are also a special protocol with regards to dispute settlement. So you see, dalam the body itself is 320. Ada pula special agreement, ada pula special protocol on settlement. Ada dalam special protocol of settlement is because of the establishing of the courts specified for law of the sea called Hamburg Tribunals or ITLOS, nama baru dia. Okay, right. Nampak interpretation of treaty? This is also will require another sitting with you to look into the interpretation of treaty. Right. So mark interpretation of treaty, section 3 of part 3, article 31, article 32, article 33, article article 33. 3 articles that are so important for you to understand. Before that one, we will look into a reservation. And then we will conclude it with the first part conclusion tadi tu. The first part of the convention. Yeah. In the meantime, right, there will be part 4. Yang kat part 4, starting with Article 38, amendment of treaties until all right, termination, invalidation. Okay. All right. Sampailah kepada Article 55, 53, right? Okay, all that are called the golden rules of itu ancient one. People ancient like me, we call it the golden rules of Antarctica with regards to, all right, amendment and modification. Boleh? All right. Okay. So today we have looked into some of the important principles and some of the first part information of formation of treaty. Okay. Right. Berhenti dulu kat sini. In my next class, I'll send, after this class, I'll send you a PowerPoint. All right. That is a summary of the whole thing with regards to Vienna Convention, which you will need to understand it in order for us to look into the privilege of, all right, reservation, amendments, the golden rules of amendments, and then conclusion, and the importance and significance of entering into force. And those 3 parts, I will cover it in my next class.